Variegated rubber plant. This plant should be grown in indirect bright light for it to thrive indoors and for it to show its best color variegated leaves. It tolerates a broad variety of lighting conditions, from direct sunlight outdoors to low lighting conditions indoors. Ideally provided with at least a daily exposure of 6 hours of indirect bright light for best results. Insufficient light results in faded variegation and less growth. Excessive direct sunlight is not good as it will burn the light green parts of the leaves. This plant needs just a little watering as it can easily fail because of root rot due to overwatering. It should be watered only when the soil is dry or at least the few inches. When growing in its natural environment of hot and humid forest, there is not a lot of water available, so it doesn't need to be watered a lot. It is tolerant of being underwater as it retains plenty of water in its thick, glossy leaves and can go a few days without getting watered. Typically, it needs watering once weekly or once in 2 weeks, although it will need to be watered more frequently if it lives in drier and hotter climates. You will have to water it less in winter, around once every 3 weeks. There is one rule you should keep in mind. Water the plant well every time by ensuring the entire root ball gets drenched nicely. Stop watering when the water flows from the drainage holes. Overwatering the plant will result in yellow leaves or brown spots appearing on the leaves. Underwatering will result in leaf loss as the leaves will fall off one by one. This plant naturally benefits from having extra humidity in the environment since it's native to jungles of Asia and comfortable with high humidity and temperatures. Similarly, it needs more humidity when grown indoors, with a minimum of 40 to 50% for the plant to thrive. This can be sustained indoors using a humidifier. Avoid placing this variegated plant in drafty areas near fans, vents, or windows in winter. This plant thrives in hot environments like its native habitat, ideally in temperatures between 60 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It doesn't tolerate temperatures lower than 50 and it will stop growing. The soil requirements for this plant are the same as those as regular rubber plants. It requires a well-drained and aerated soil, tolerating any soil type just as long as it's well-drained. You can make your own well-draining mix instead by combining equal parts of regular soil, peat, perlite, and pine bark. Using soil including organic components is suggested as this acts as a slow-releasing fertilizer, which provides sufficient nutrients for the plant even if it's not fertilized. This plant is toxic if ingested by humans and pets. This plant has to be repotted about once every second year. It prefers to get root bound, so it's best to wait for the right time to move it into a bigger home. You'll know when it's the right time when the soil stops retaining any water and it's flowing straight out of the container. When repotting, use the recommended wool-draining fresh potting mix and go up one size wider and bigger than the old container. This will help provide support for healthy and thriving growth for the plant. Repotting is necessary to help the roots to grow continuously, and the fresh soil will provide it with fresh nutrients. Clay pots are more suitable than other materials due to their aeration and evaporation. Much like other rubber plants varieties, this one is also easy to propagate. Water can be used for propagation by simply taking a section of cutting from the stem with at least 3 or 4 leaves. Enter the stem into the water until the roots reach 2 to 3 inches long, then transplant into soil. You can stick a stem straight into the soil, just ensure it gets enough humidity by using a humidifier close by if necessary. Don't forget to keep the leaves clean with a cloth and regularly turn the plant so that the whole plant gets sufficient light for even growth. It doesn't need much pruning as it won't grow very large when grown indoors. It needs some feeding once monthly during its active growing period from April through October with a granular slow-release fertilizer. Always follow the recommended dose carefully. It's better to be underfed rather than more, as excess fertilizer will burn its leaves and cause severe damage. Do not feed it in winter when growth becomes dormant. While this plant is very disease resistant, common pests like spider mites and mealybugs can sometimes attack this plant. Usually this plant will provide some hints of problems with its leaves. Yellow leaves suggest overwatering, so inspect the soil if it's too wet. Brown spots or crispy leaves suggest that it's either underwater or getting excessive exposure to direct sunlight. It will also let you know if it's thirsty when the leaves look sad and droopy. If you notice that the variegation of leaves is fading and becoming green, expose the plant to more light.